What is up, sports geeks? It's your host Josh here, back with another episode here, joined by Nick, the college basketball guru, back after a long absence. Nick, how you doing? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. I love coming back every so often as much as I can, and it's great to be talking because we're only 4 months out from the start of the season. 3 months
Yeah,
out, so we're
yeah,
getting close.
absolutely. You enjoying the summer so far, though?
I am. It's been good. It's been hotter than I thought it was going to be, but I mean, I'm still enjoying it. At least it's
Yeah,
better than it being, low 70s and raining. So I'll take it.
yeah, yeah. Good to hear. We got a month till football, like you said, 4 months till college basketball, and that's what we're here to chat about, right? So, just today, we hear that Dan Hurley is signing a contract extension to stay with UConn, right? And so we were recording. We were just talking about this. We were recording this either way, just to talk about
Yeah.
him staying at UConn, how important that is for college basketball, for UConn, obviously, right? But for college basketball as a whole. And then he goes and signs the contract extension today, which is perfect. Just gives us some more numbers to throw around. So six years, 50 million is what he signed today to stay at UConn. He turned down 20 more million, 6 years, 70 million for the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm kind of curious to hear your initial take on just how important that is for college basketball as a whole for him to stay.
Well, obviously, most importantly, it's humongous for the University of Connecticut. I mean, without him at the helm, I really don't know who they go to replace him with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you even try to hire within the staff, okay, you're going to have these recruits for maybe a year or two, and then they're going to hit the road. They're not going to want to play. They came there to play for Danny Hurley. So first and foremost, UConn, that's massive. The fact that they were able to retain him is humongous. But then you bring it into college basketball as a whole. I mean, the juggernaut's back. They're
Yeah.
going for they're going for the three-peat now. I mean, they reloaded on the roster. They were able to get big commitments and get people to flip from other blue blood colleges, all because Danny Hurley stayed and they want to play. I think that's the biggest thing when you look at it is the fact that these recruits, even though they hopped on board with these different teams, are willing to hop off of the ship
Mm-hmm.
and join Danny Hurley and continue the dynasty he's building at UConn, especially, I mean, it's crazy to think about. And when you go in to look at it, it's just like, I think everybody and their brother knew that Danny Hurley is not, I mean, not an NBA coach.
Right.
He
Right.
could be. He's very good enough to be an NBA coach, but I don't think anybody in their right mind saw him sitting on the sideline coaching Anthony Davis and LeBron James and screaming at him. Like there's
Yeah.
nobody saw that. And it didn't seem like it would be a good fit. So I'm glad he said no and that he's back at UConn for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely. I am as well. I was almost shocked that he even was visiting with the Lakers. Because as soon as it popped, well, right away when they win the national championship, right, the Kentucky job is open. Before they
Yep.
hire Mark Price, and Calipari's already gone to Arkansas. And he was asked about that essentially like a post game press conference, right? About there's some job openings. Are you going anywhere? And he was basically like, my wife would kill me, but no, I'm
Yeah.
not going anywhere. Is what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think he's I completely understand, right? You've built this dynasty. You are trying to enter into the blue blood. Obviously, you need a long tenure to enter into the blue blood conversation. But you've won back to back. First team since Florida in 2006-07 to do that, right?
Yep.
So you clearly are entering that. And I was almost shocked that he even took the Lakers, but I understand he heard him out. And I also think it might have been a little bit of leverage too, right? When you're negotiating that contract with UConn, just going to talk to the Lakers. Not that you needed any more leverage for the university. I mean, you just brought in back-to-back national championships, but I think it's huge for his success too. I mean, we've seen how volatile the NBA market is for coaches. Like I immediately think of like John Beeline, right? You build a dynasty in Michigan, and you are having a crazy amount of success, right? At a
Yep.
Final Four trip, you're doing everything you can, and you get a pay raise to go coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers right in 2019, and you're there for one season, you get fired.
Yep. And then
That's
you're
the
gone.
volatility in the NBA coaching market, right? Whereas in college basketball, dude, you could have 5 bad years. I mean, with the resume that Beeline had, you could have 5 bad years of all just making the tournament and losing first round, losing second round, and you're still going to have a job. So
Yeah.
I think that
That's I
that
mean,
that's a big factor of that held Dan Hurley, kept him at UConn.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it like you said, in the college, there's so much more leniency to what you do. You're given a lot longer of a timeline. You're able to have a few slip up years in there. Like you
Mm-hmm.
said with Michigan and Beeline, I mean, look at how they were with Juwan Howard. I mean, they had the one good year where they went deep in the tournament and then they sucked ever since. And then they gave him 4 years to suck.
Mm-hmm.
You look at what, Hurley's done here at UConn. I mean, he's back-to-back champions. They won every game in the tournament by 10 plus points.
Yeah.
They outscored their opponents by 140 in the 6-game stretch. It's like the highest that anybody's ever seen. They lost 3 of their starters from their first championship team, reloaded, and then still won another championship and dominated while doing it.
In their first championship team that was a 4 seed and not even a 1 seed, right? Like, yeah.
I mean, it's just the fact that they were able to, obviously bring him back is just huge, but what he was able to do with, reloading on talent and just making sure that these guys are willing to come in and compete and battle and, trust and believe in themselves. I think that's the biggest thing because, I mean, they literally have dominated in the biggest tournament in the past 2 years and are now going for their third title in a row.
Yeah. I'm completely with you. I think for college basketball as a whole, it's crucial too, because I think Michigan in the John Beeline is a perfect, to reference that again, perfect situation of, as a Michigan State fan, I hate to say it, college basketball is better when Michigan is good. Same thing with Ohio State, right? Which is awesome. See Jake Diebler taking over that job. I think he's going to do a great job there as well. But college basketball is better when those huge schools, the like sport powerhouse schools, are good. Like Michigan, like Ohio State, right? Like UConn in basketball. UConn football is terrible, but like UConn in basketball. And so for you to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go chase money and leave. Now UConn basketball is going to take a huge hit. Like, obviously we're talking about that, right? They're going to take a huge hit. So is college basketball as a whole because UConn's not as good anymore, right? I guarantee there's going to be people tuning in this year to the national tournament to see, is Dan Hurley going to win a third in a row? Is he going to do it, right? People that are Dan Hurley fans are going to be tuning in. My dad loves Dan Hurley. He probably doesn't like UConn that much, but he loves Dan Hurley, so he's going to be watching, right? And I think there's a lot of things like that. He's just keeping the attention in college basketball instead of taking his huge profile and taking it to the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, like you said, everybody knows Danny Hurley and everybody loves him. You look all the way back to Rhode Island when he was coaching against Trae Young in the tournament. I mean, everyone's like, who is this bald-headed psycho on the sideline, screaming, going crazy, mean-mugging the rest? You're like, who is this guy? And, he was instantly, everyone loved him. I mean, and you look at him now, he was able to step up and get that job at UConn. And everybody can refer back to what he said when it was like his first or second year there. And they were getting whooped. They were, I think, 13 and 12. And he said, you better get your licks in now because we're coming.
Yep.
And look at where they are now.
Yeah, boy, oh boy,
they're here. They're here and they're here to stay. And, I think when you have any type of coach that's willing to fight for their players like that and has that type of energy, you're going to produce a winning product on the floor day in, day out. It's just going to happen that way. Yep. And, for UConn to be willing to throw him that contract of, 6 years, $50 million shows that they are willing to give him the money to keep producing that championship caliber team.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do want to quickly touch on, so they lose a lot, right, from this year's team to going forward to next year's team. Obviously, the big one, Donovan Clingan, right? Just we saw that national championship game against Zach Edey. Edey got his points, right, and that was Dan Hurley's strategy, right? Is we're going to let Edey score, not let Edey score, but we're going to let him play 1v1. And we're going to shut everybody else down. And that's exactly what they did. The reason they were able to do that is because of Donovan Clingan. You can sit here and say, Edey had what, 37, maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
And if you would have played that defense without Donovan Clingan in the game, he would have dropped 50-something. And you probably lose the game. Donovan Clingan was so crucial to that team. You also have the likes of Tristan Newton, right? Cam Spencer's gone. And so I think that they're going to lose a lot, right? But like you said, they reload. Stephon Castle too. I don't know if I mentioned his name, Stephon Castle. But you reloaded really well. First of all, Alex Caravan staying is huge. He is
Massive.
a sharpshooter, and the way that UConn works, the way that Dan Hurley has success is by having, for the most part, every single guy on the court is lethal from the 3-point line. And you have your guys that can really, really, really hurt you are always in the sets, right? Are always getting action, are always coming off of singles, are always coming off of flares, they're always coming off of everything, right? And it is so hard to defend. And when you give him guys that are elite 3-point shooters, like Cam Spencer, like Alex Caravan, you see just how dangerous they are, right? It's so hard to defend. Now you have Alex Caravan coming back, right? Cam Spencer is replaced by Aiden Mahaney. Aiden Mahaney is you should prepare for Aiden Mahaney to have one of the best 3-point shooting seasons we have maybe ever seen under Dan Hurley. And he was, I mean, I could watch him shoot, obviously from St. Mary's, right? From St. Mary's College, transfers in.
Yep.
I could watch him shoot for hours. I mean, his shot form is butter. It's aesthetically pleasing, and he's going to clip from 3 for Dan Hurley.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you look at the class that he brought in. I mean, it's fantastic. He went out and got a great guard in Mahaney. I mean, one of the better point guards, I mean, not only in the WCC, but in the country. I mean, yes, he's a little bit undersized, but he is so good and elusive with his dribble that he finds himself an open shot, and he can, come off the screen like UConn runs and get that open 3. Or if it's not going to him, it's a perfect, easy pick and roll to where he finds Caravan for the open shot. I mean, it's going to work out great. And I think the biggest thing is you just got to get McNeely. You got to get his feet wet. You got to get him going because he's going to play a pivotal role in this team. If this team wants to go back and be able to three-peat, because they're going to need him to be the guy who mans the 3 and really comes on to being a really good college basketball player.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Samson Johnson's really crucial too, right? Limited minutes last year, playing behind Caravan, and Caravan pretty much played the 4, playing behind Caravan and Klingon, right? But I think he's going to be crucial. I also think Terrace Reed Jr. is going to be really, really crucial, and I think he's going to be a stud. I think he probably starts at the 5 to begin the season. I mean, he's coming from Michigan. We mentioned Michigan earlier. He's transferring in from Michigan. He's 6'10". Yep. He's really good. I can tell you, as a Michigan State fan, he tore us up in one of our games last year. I think he had like 12 and 15 against us. He's really good on the glass. He is somebody that perfectly, to me, obviously smaller than Klingon and Sonogo were in the last 2 years, right? But he is that role. He's that elite board snatching center that's going to protect the rim for you. He's going to put his dunks away. He's going to rebound offensively, and that's his role. And when you need them to play 1v1 in the post, if you're playing somebody that's got an undersized that's playing small ball against you, he can do that too. I think the Aiden Mahaney, don't get me wrong, is a great get in the transfer portal. Terrace Reed, I think, fills maybe a bigger need on this team. I think Mahaney will be the more, maybe you could say, impactful player. Terrace Reed filled a need that was a bad need, and I think he's going to be really, really crucial to this if they want to three-peat this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I mean, when you look at it, the past 2 years, they've kind of had more back to the basket, a little bit. We're going to run our offense through that center. I mean, yes, Reed is still the same type of player, but I think having a guy like him who's a little bit more versatile than I'd say the other 2 were, it definitely kind of helps them, have a new identity where they're going to run more. I think they're going to be the same way where Daniel is going to want to run a little bit more because – that's just the way they want to go. The way they play so fast whenever they do things, and I think the more they can get out and run in transition, I think the better off they'll be because that gets a lot more easy buckets in transition, and you don't have to worry about setting up plays for Mahaney to try to come off a screen or anything like that. And I feel like the more they run, the better they'll be this coming
year. Yeah, no, I would agree. I think that this team is kind of scary to me because if Dan Hurley gets them playing right, which he will before, the national.
I'd say at least by first 5 games of conference.
Yeah. I think the worst case scenario is by the new year they are. I think sometimes you have like the early sprinkles of conference play and then like the break in it. When you start to really settle down into conference play, they're going to be playing. And you're going to have Mahaney, McNeely, and Caravan, 3 guys that I genuinely believe can shoot 40+% from 3 and genuinely believe they will shoot 40+% from 3. That's not a team I want to run into ever, because we talk about this when you get to the tournament, right? And this is something that we always mention
Yeah.
is having multiple guys that can score, having
Yep.
multiple identities is what leads to success, right? And it's what's led to success for UConn the last 2 seasons, right? And the reason that they're about to have that is because you have so many different ways to score. Caravan's a lights out 3-point shooter. He's really good in the post as well. And if you
Yep.
try to play small ball, he's going to tear you up in the post. Terrace Reed is a post scorer when he needs to be. I mean, we saw that
Yep.
last year at Michigan. And then you obviously have Mahaney, right? I just think this team has a lot of depth to it, or just the versatility, I think is the word I'm looking for. They have a lot of versatility offensively. And Dan Hurley always gets them to play hard defensively. That's not a question at all.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team, like you said, they're a very deep team because each player can do something different.
Yeah.
They all excel at something different, but at the same time, they all have so many different levels to their game that they complement each other so well that it is once again, that's why people are speaking about the three, not just because they went back to back. Yes, that helps, but this team has a legitimate chance to actually do and get that third win and actually have a three-peat. Because most teams, you really can't do it. You get to 2 years in a row, and that's it. You don't
Right.
actually have the opportunity to reload and do it again. But this team is they're so athletic and so skilled at all different assets of what they have to play for that they legitimately could pull this off and have three in a row.
Yeah, the other thing too is we haven't mentioned any of them at all. Is Jalen Stewart, Jaden Ross, and Solomon Ball, dude, are 3 top 100 recruits from last year that you got to sit for a year essentially. None of them
Yep.
really have played any significant minutes. Sit for a year under the studs that we just mentioned earlier, right? Stephon Castle, Donovan Clingan, Cam Spencer, right? Tristan Newton. You got to sit and learn from those 4 guys all year last year and learn Dan Hurley's system. Now you're giving Dan Hurley an entire offseason with those 3 guys, and you're telling me none of them are going to contribute? No, they're all going to contribute. I think Solomon Ball could be a stud for this team. And I think that kind of looking at the starting lineup, to me, I see Mahaney at the 1 probably. I think the 2 is open. I think Solomon Ball probably takes that spot. I think the 3
Yeah.
is Neely probably, and then you run Caravan Reed. I think that's probably your starting 5. Obviously, there could be some stuff that fluctuates in there, but I think the 2 spots open, and I think Solomon Ball is thrilled and is going to try to hop on that big time.
Yeah, I mean, you look at them 1 through 5. That's an easy top 10 team in the country off rip. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's when they have barely played with each other. So, like
Yep.
we said, imagine when you get this team into the beginning of January, right around the new year, conference play is really starting to ramp up, and this team has had 2 months to play with each other against other competition. This team could be very scary, and I think they're also just extremely athletic to where you really can run into this team and you really don't know. You could get a 30-piece hung on you real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a 30-piece hung on you from several people. I do want to quickly, and I know we've been on UConn a lot. I want to really briefly touch on a couple other aspects here. Maybe some teams that you think could contend or knock them off for a three-peat, and some teams I think 2 teams I really want to highlight, and I know this is one of the teams for me that can knock UConn off. The 2 teams I think are huge, not bounce back years, but I think prove it years. And one of them is Purdue because you did it last year on the back of Edey, right? We saw the tournament run he made was one of, if not the best tournament run we've ever seen from an individual player.
Yep.
Unconscious the entire season, right? I mean, 2-time National Player of the Year. He's a great player. But can Matt Painter do it without him? Can Braden Smith do it without him? Can Fletcher Lawyer do it without having somebody that's just sucking in double, triple teams the entire time
Yeah.
and then allowing you guys to have open shots? That's one. The other one's Kansas, and I know you're going to touch on Kansas here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you look at Kansas, you've seen what they've brought in. I mean, and what they've brought back. They have a roster that, I mean, half these guys could have left and at least gotten picked in the second round of the NBA draft. I mean, Kansas, after what happened last year with injury, losing McCullough, losing Dickinson, it happens. I mean, it's college basketball. It's any type of sport. You're going to have injuries, but the real question is how's Bill Self going to bounce back? How's he going to coach these guys up with all that he's brought back? Get these guys hungry and get them to go out and compete and get back to being dominant and winning the Big 12 again. Because guess what? We just added a few more horses to the Big 12 race, and you're looking at now. You got to play Arizona, possibly
Yep.
twice. You got to play Baylor. You're playing Houston. How are you going to compete with these new dark horses and get back to what Kansas basketball really is?
Yeah. So I am curious if you have this lineup, right, that you could run for Kansas. DeJuan Harris at the 1, AJ Storr at the 2, right? Rylan Griffin at the 3, who can clip from 3, by the way. I mean, played under Nate Oates over Bama. He can clip from 3. KJ Adams at the 4, Hunter Dickinson at the 5. I didn't even mention Zeke Bayo, who's probably your 6th man. And then you have Flory Badunga, who, by the way, was putting up triple doubles as a junior in high school with points, rebounds, and blocks.
Yeah.
Like, that is to me what Bill Self has done is said, all right, we got screwed by the injury bug last year. We could get screwed by the injury bug this year, and it's not going to matter because we're so deep. That's what he's done to me.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it like you don't build teams that deep. I mean, I know obviously NIL is the main factor in all of that, but at the same time, you can throw as much money as you want at somebody if they don't trust you as a coach to actually get them to where they want to go next, which is the NBA. And you're not going to have a guy like Flory Badunga coming off the bench as your 7th guy, 8th guy.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't happen anymore in the sport.
No.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I think they're probably going to be the preseason number 1, and for the right reason.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at roster-wise, Dan Hurley can make some magic happen. They should be a top 3 to 5 team, to start the season, just because of him and what they've brought back, slightly what they've brought back. But Kansas should be number 1 to start. Duke, I want to touch on Duke here too. They lose a lot, right? You lose Williams to the portal.
Yeah.
You lose Roach in the portal, right, to Baylor. And then you lose Filipowski and Jared McCain. You lose 4 of your 5 starters. The only guy you bring back is Proctor, right?
Yeah.
And
he was dealing with injury all last year.
Yeah. So I think obviously, right, you're bringing in Cooper Flagg, who's training with the U.S. men's national team right now.
Did you see any of those videos from today?
Not from. I saw one from yesterday. We got blocked by AD and then dunked. But
he blocked. He had a block on AD today, and then also hit a 3, and then had a transition put back for an and 1. He's going to be an absolute problem.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I think it's great that the USA basketball brought him along. I mean, he's not on the roster. He's just on the practice team, right? But the exposure he's getting is going to be awesome. If my Pistons could be the worst team in the league this year and end up with the first overall pick, we've been the worst team in the league the last 2 years and gotten the 5th overall pick both times. So it's about as likely as Michigan State winning a national title, I think. But yes, you never know. You never know. But I think, Flagg's going to be a stud. But I think every year kind of Duke runs into this, and that's something that John Shire's going to have to deal with, is you bring in so many new guys. You don't have a core. Your core right now is Tyrese Proctor. And we talk about the experience, right? And that's something we always mention in the tournament. And that's something that Kansas absolutely has, right? DeJuan Harris, AJ Storr, 2 guys with a ton of experience. Especially DeJuan Harris. He's been there for like 12 years now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's been there for 10 years. It's wild.
Yeah. No, he's starting to become like the Brad Davidson, right? Is that the Wisconsin guy?
He was Wisconsin.
I think he was only there for 4 years, but it felt like he was there for 6 years. I think it was because he's like, as a freshman, he was like taking charges in every single game, and it's like, who is this guy? Why does he play so mature? And he still had 3 years left. But no, I think experience is something that John Shire and Duke is going to struggle with, right? And if you lose Proctor, you have no experience in your guard play at all. Could be something.
Yeah,
but Flagg's going to be a stud.
I think that is obviously, like you said, that's the biggest thing in college basketball, especially now. I mean, when you can convince these older players to stay, when you can dish them NIL money instead of having to rely on some 17, 18, 19-year-old to, go out and play in these environments and win you a championship, I think you're better off for it. You need to go after the older guy. You got to convince him to stay. I mean, look at Caleb Love. Look at R.J. Davis. Look at Hunter Dickinson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These guys are well-known faces in college basketball, and I think anybody would agree with me. You would rather see them in college basketball still than playing overseas, and you have to watch some random no name from high school that you didn't really watch, that you really don't know. That's I mean, it's kind of pointless if you ask me for these guys not to come back because it makes our sport better.
Yes, and I think there's a very rare build that does really well in the NBA, right? I do actually think that AJ Storr is that build. The freakishly athletic, really good off the
Yeah,
bounce. I was shocked that he didn't go to the draft.
that was extremely surprising that he decided to go take the money at Kansas
Yeah, I
instead
think
of going to the
he
NBA. But
very much like Anthony Edwards vibes. It's the exact
yeah,
like play style that he has. Just freakishly athletic, plays above the rim, can stroke it from 3-2. But either way, I mean, having the thing that you have to think about too is like the flip side of that is okay, you're going to put out an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old kid and say we think he can compete, but can he compete against experience? Right? Can he go out and bring the ball up against DeJuan Harris for 40 minutes and not turn the ball over 4 times? Because
or be playing in a tournament game against the team Oakland, and you don't know what to do because this is your first time ever playing in an NBA arena. This is your first time playing under these lights.
Yep.
The rims are a lot stiffer, even though it's NCAA basketball. They're still using the hoops that you're getting from these NBA gyms, and there you go. You have a team from the Horizon League who is a tight knit group, has been together for a while, and is comfortable playing with each other. It's really that simple.
And the greatest shooter of all time, Jack Golke, in the 2024 national tournament.
Yeah.
But either way, this is it's been a good little debate here, good little discussion. We got more college basketball stuff coming. Obviously, season is about 4 months away, but as soon as college football NFL hits, it's quick, right? We get running down that that hill pretty quick. So we got more college basketball stuff coming. We have more fantasy football stuff coming. I'm here soon too. Fantasy football is always a blast. Some people call it an addiction. It might be, but it's a blast to talk about either way. But any closing comments out of you? If not, I'll ask you to submit your national champion prediction for 2025 right now.
All right, so I have a few. I'll say, being a UC fan, I think with the roster they've constructed this offseason, this is literally a make or break year for Wes Miller. Like, it's either you get back to the tournament and you at least win 1 to 2 games, or I think you're going to be having a really tough conversation with, the AD, and there's a chance that everybody wants you gone because this team is going to be a top 25 team. You got to get stuff done. Like, I think every UC fan ever will agree. They haven't been in the tournament over 5 years now. It's now's the time. Now's the time.
And talent-wise, you should be in the tournament, at least competing in games.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. There's really nothing else to it.
Yeah.
And then for my national champion, I'll go. I see a Kansas versus Bama final.
Okay.
And I see Kansas edges them out, beats them by, we'll say 6. We'll say beat them by 6.
Okay, I like that. I like the Bama shout out because I think Mark Sears could be your 2024-2025 AP National Player of the Year because he is a stud. And we saw it in the tournament last year, but I like the Bama shout out there. I'm going UConn three-peating over either Bama or Kansas, one of the two. But I'm going with the Dan Hurley three-peat because of the shooters that he brought in, because of how dangerous they're going to be from the three-point line. Again, like they always are.
It is extremely, extremely possible.
Yeah. But there you go. UConn and Kansas are our 2 national champion predictions. We have more coming to you here, guys, soon. But for now, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.